our top story, and this should worry all of us. The world could lose at least a third of the Himalayan glaciers by the end of this century. A report by the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development has flagged the need to limit global warming. The report suggests that the region is warming faster than the global average. The report highlights that even if global warming is limited to 1.5 degrees Celsius, 36% of the glaciers in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region will have disappeared by 2100. It could have devastating consequences on the lives of those living in the mountains as well as downstream. Remember, the Paris Climate Agreement's target is 1.5 degrees Celsius. The report says that if the current emissions continue, the mountains could see temperatures rise further by the end of 2100. Philippus Wester, a scientist, said in a statement that this is the climate crisis you haven't heard of. Many glaciers across the region, particularly on the Tibetan Plateau and on the eastern stretches of the mountain range, have retreated by somewhere between 20 to 40% since 2000. Since the 1970s, about 15% of the ice in the Hindu Kush region has disappeared as temperatures have risen. Now let us take a look at what the Hindu Kush Himalayan region is. Well, the region stretches across 3,500 kilometers. It is home to the world's highest peaks, Mount Everest and the K2. The region harbors 30,000 square miles of glacier ice. This is more than anywhere else outside the Arctic and the Antarctica, and is hence referred to as the third pole. It covers 8 countries: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar, Nepal and Pakistan. The glaciers supply water to 250 million people. The water from the glacier flows into rivers and supports 1.65 billion people. So what would its melting mean for these people? Well, for one, farmers will have to go higher up the mountains to farm. For those living downstream, it would mean a change in snow and rain patterns, flooding of rivers or more natural disasters. It would also lead to unpredictable water resources for those living in the mountainous regions. The change in flow of rivers would impact hydropower production and also cause more soil erosion. The flow of the Yangtze, the Mekong, the Indus and the Ganga are also expected to be disrupted. Philippus Wester says that it is high time we start paying attention to the mountains. This comprehensive report contains 650 pages of assessment. About 210 people have worked together for 3 years to release this report. Well, let's move on to other news now. And the US President Donald Trump has been hailing tremendous progress in his dealings with North Korea. But now a United Nations report has highlighted that North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile programs remain intact. According to the report, North Korea is making sure that its nuclear and military capabilities are not destroyed by military strikes. The report comes at a time when Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un are planning to hold their second summit this month. The report found that Pyongyang is using civilian facilities for ballistic missile assembly and testing. This also includes the airport. Now, the region says that the report says that there is evidence of a consistent trend on the part of the North Korean government to disperse its assembly, storage and testing locations. Not just that, the country has also been defying UN Security Council resolutions by increasing illegal ship-to-ship transfers of petroleum and coal. The report said that they had evidence of petroleum product transfer of more than 57,600 barrels, which is worth $5.7 million. Now, North Korea has also been accused of violating a UN arms embargo. The report says that the country has been trying to sell military equipment to West Asia, Africa, Libya, Sudan, as well as the Houthi rebels in Yemen. Meanwhile, the U.S. Special Envoy to North Korea, Stephen Biegun, will be traveling to Pyongyang tomorrow to prepare for the second U.S.-North Korea summit. The date of the summit is expected to be announced later this week. Remember, Trump and Kim's landmark summit, which took place last June, yielded a commitment by Kim Jong-un to work towards eliminating his nuclear arsenal. When U.S. Foreign Secretary Mike Pompeo visited North Korea in October, Kim committed to dismantle and destroy his country's plutonium and uranium enrichment facilities. Kim said that he would do this in return for corresponding measures from the United States. Began has said that these corresponding measures will be discussed in talks this week. It is not the first time, however, the report has flagged North Korea's real intentions. Last week, the director of the U.S. National Intelligence, Dan Coats, said that North Korea was not likely to give up all its nuclear weapons. In August, the UN nuclear watchdog, International Atomic Energy Agency, had also said that it found no indication that North Korea had stopped its nuclear program. Well, more than 100,000 people attended the first papal mass in the Arabian Peninsula, which marked the conclusion of the historic visit of Pope Francis, the first such by any pope to the United Arab Emirates. But the pontiff was also on a diplomatic and image-building mission, trying to restore the role and the credibility of the Catholic Church in West Asia and beyond. Our West Asia Bureau Chief, Daniele Pagani, has the story.
Pope Francis is the first pontiff to set foot on the Arabian Peninsula, an area broadly ruled by a conservative version of the Muslim faith. In Saudi Arabia, churches and Christian symbols are forbidden and believers must hide to celebrate Mass, a remembrance of what used to happen during the Roman Empire when Christianity was considered illegal. Pope Francis stayed in the UAE, a country seen as the least restrictive for Christians in the Gulf. One of the few places in West Asia where the number of Christians is rising. There are roughly 1 million Christians living in the Emirates, primarily immigrants. More than 130,000 believers from more than 100 countries and all branches of Christianity attended the first papal mass in the Arabian Peninsula.
Never imagined that I will see the Pope in this country, at least in UAE.
The UAE remains a strictly Muslim country where propagation of faiths other than the Islam is prohibited. Pope Francis attended an interfaith conference on brotherhood between Muslims and Christians. He signed a treaty of human fraternity with the Grand Imam of Egypt's Al-Zahra Mosque, one of the highest authority in Sunni Islam.
I have one last message directed to my brothers, the Muslims in the East. You must continue to embrace your brothers, Christian citizens everywhere. They are partners in our nation and our siblings whom the Holy Quran deems as closest and in the fellowship towards us.
The Pope was also on a diplomatic mission aimed at easing the situation for Christians in the region.
The Pope is also called the Pontifex, means one who builds a bridge. And he could be a bridge builder, being in a country where Christians are well tolerated, but it's not our place. We are all expats. We don't belong here. And there we need to be accepted and recognized as someone belonging to this country. All these are aspirations of people.
Christians suffered at the hands of the Islamic State terror group. In the area surrounding the Iraqi city of Mosul, terrorists used to mark Christian houses, painting the red letter N on their doors, standing for Nasrani, the old Arabic word for Christians. Those who could not flee were tortured and then executed. In Egypt, terrorists linked to the Islamic State have killed scores of Christians. As in many of his public appearances, Pope Francis did not shy away from addressing the current political situation.
Penso in particolare allo Yemen, alla Siria, all'Iraq, alla Libia. Insieme, fratelli dell'unica famiglia umana voluta da Dio, impegniamoci contro la logica della potenza armata, contro la monetizzazione delle relazioni, l'armamento dei confini, l'innalzamento di muri, l'imbarbagliamento dei poveri.
A particularly resounding statement given the UAE is a part of a coalition currently fighting and enforcing a full-scale blockade in Yemen. With Daniele Pagani in Amman, Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
While back home, a day after the UK government ordered the extradition of fugitive Indian businessman Vijay Mallya has made it clear that he will make yet another attempt to delay his return to India. Taking to Twitter, Mallya said that he would appeal against the decision. He wrote, and I quote, "After the decision was handed down on December 10th, 2018 by the Westminster Magistrates Court, I stated my intention to appeal. I could not initiate the appeal process before a decision by the Home Secretary. Now I will initiate the appeal process," unquote. But Mallya's appeal will only be considered if the High Court grants him the permission. Earlier, the UK Home Minister Sajid Javid signed the extradition order 8 weeks after the case was sent to him for a decision. The news was first confirmed to WION by the spokesperson of the UK Home Ministry. The decision has been hailed in India and is being seen as a huge diplomatic success for the Indian government, which has been fighting tooth and nail to expedite the extradition of the liquor baron. The Indian Union Minister Arun Jaitley took to Twitter and said Modi government clears one more step to get Mallya extradited while opposition rallies around Sarda scamsters, unquote. The government sources have also told WION that they are awaiting the early completion of the legal process for Mallya's extradition. So the Kingfisher owner has, of course, gone from being the king of good times to India's poster boy for loan defaults. Here's a look at the rise and fall of Vijay Mallya.
Whatever he did in style. Liquor baron Vijay Mallya launched the premier and luxury Kingfisher airline in 2005. He said it was a gift for his son Siddharth on his 18th birthday. It soon became the largest privately owned airline in India following its merger with Air Deccan. Kingfisher Airlines also managed to secure a coveted slot at the Heathrow Airport in London. But the airline ran into continuous losses and finally collapsed in 2013, leaving creditors, suppliers and employees in the lurch. By the end of January 2014, the airline owed banks 9,000 crores or more than $1 billion. Not just the bank's dues, Kingfisher Airlines never made any profit during the 7 years when it was flying. It also owed 300 crores in salaries to thousands of employees. But Mallya's own good times continued. Mallya co-owned India's first Formula One team, Force India, and presented its 2008 car, the VJM-01, to cricket-crazy Indians. The same year, he picked up a stake in the Royal Challengers Bangalore cricket team in the Indian Premier League, or the IPL. Besides, he also had 50% stakes in Kolkata-based Mohun Bagan and East Bengal soccer clubs. He built a luxury Kingfisher villa in Goa, famed for his lavish parties. They were attended by the who's who of the glamour world. He collected dozens of vintage cars worth millions and published a Kingfisher calendar of Indian models. He himself often appeared in photo shoots. To cap his business achievements, Mallya was elected in 2010 to the upper house of Indian Parliament. But the good times did not last. Mallya was mired in a growing series of legal battles following the collapse of his Kingfisher airline. In March 2016, Mallya left India after banks took a legal course to recover dues from Kingfisher Airlines. On Twitter, he accused everyone from media houses to banks of trying to spread lies about him. In April 2017, Mallya was arrested in London by the Scotland Yard and produced before the Westminster Magistrates Court. Shortly afterwards, he was granted bail. In December 2018, a British court finally ordered his extradition.
It's unfortunate that the judge has found a prima facie case that I made misrepresentations to IDBI Bank only and persuaded them to loan money to Kingfisher Airlines. Be that as it may, the judge was perfectly entitled to make whatever judgment she thought fit. I have my rights. You heard the judge. My legal team will consider various options and then I will decide going forward.
With the British government formally signing the order to extradite him, India is now one step closer to bring back one of its biggest defaulters. One thing is for sure, Malia's journey back to India, if and when that finally happens, will be the final blow for the man once known as the King of Good Times. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Well, the other big story from India and the tussle between the premier investigating agency, the CBI, and the West Bengal government continues to make headlines. India's top court has now ruled that Kolkata Police Commissioner Rajiv Kumar cannot be arrested, but he has to make available all evidence to the CBI and cooperate with the investigations into the chit fund scams. The Police Commissioner of Kolkata, Rajiv Kumar, will appear before the CBI in Shillong in Meghalaya as directed by the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, the top court will take up the contempt of court plea on February 20th. The CBI told the Supreme Court that Rajiv Kumar's special investigative team has shielded guilty companies and there was inaction, selective action as well as a nexus between the police and the accused companies. In its affidavit, the CBI has said that the evidence handed over by the team was not complete and was doctored as well.
The Honorable Chief Justice of India's bench ordered that Mr. Rajiv Kumar would make himself available in light of the prayer of the application of the CBI to join that investigation, make available whatever is required and cooperate fully. At the same time, the Honorable Court pointed out that no coercive steps would be taken. Now, it has also been made clear by the Honorable Court in its order that the personal appearance after filing of replies of the concerned officers may be required, and that will be communicated by the Secretary General of the Honorable Supreme Court on the 19th, if such appearance is required on the 20th.
Now, it is the third day the Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee sit-in protest in Kolkata against the centre. According to Mamata Banerjee, the Modi government is planning a coup in the state. The trigger was a CBI raid against the top police official in Bengal. Addressing the media minutes after the verdict, Mamata Banerjee termed the verdict as a moral victory.
Moral victory, Banglar মানুষের, moral victory দেশের মানুষের। বাংলা সবসময় দেশের জন্য কাজ করে।
The BJP is seeing the court ruling as a huge victory as well. Speaking to reporters, senior BJP leader and Union Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad said that it was the government's obligation to investigate those who have cheated the people of their hard-earned money.
बहुत बड़ा सवाल आज उठाने की जरूरत है। लाखों बंगाल के, बिहार के, पूर्वोत्तर के छोटे पूंजी निवेशकों का हजारों करोड़ इन सारे नारदा, शारदा और रोज वैली स्कैम में लूट लिया गया। उन गरीबों के लूटे हुए पैसे की जांच होनी चाहिए कि नहीं होनी चाहिए? अभी तक ममता जी के साथ जितनी पार्टियां खड़ी हैं, उन्होंने ये कुछ नहीं कहा है। ये जांच होनी बहुत जरूरी है, ये जांच ईमानदारी से होनी बहुत जरूरी है।
The political histrionics of Mamata Banerjee were brought to a screeching halt by the Honorable Supreme Court of India. A grateful nation watched as the Supreme Court directed the Commissioner of Police, Rajiv Ji, to present himself and faithfully cooperate with the CBI.
Top Court has directed the Kolkata Police Commissioner to make himself available to the CBI and also cooperate with investigative agencies. The court also made it clear that no coercive steps can be taken against the Kolkata Police Commissioner and that he cannot be arrested. Whereas the counsel for Mamata Banerjee said that this is an attempt by the government to humiliate and harass the state of West Bengal. The case will now be heard on the 20th of February. Jessica Taneja with dinner journalist Ajit, World is One, New Delhi.
And well, the latest coming in this is that Mamata Banerjee has now announced the withdrawal of Dharna and has also thanked other political opposition parties who have given her full support in this movement. So that is the latest now, that Mamata Banerjee withdrawing her Dharna there in West Bengal. Well, let's move on to other news now. And President Donald Trump is scheduled to give his State of the Union address on Tuesday, Washington time. And while all eyes will be on an important announcement on the border wall or the impending threat of another shutdown, one thing to watch out for will be the guest lineup for this year and for the address of the president. Now, the White House has announced a list of 13 Americans who will attend the State of the Union address as guests. The guests whom the White House invites to the State of the Union typically serve to help put a face on policies which the president will promote in the nationally televised address. The policies include immigration, border security, economy, military and criminal justice reform. But one interesting guest to watch out for will be an 11-year-old Joshua Trump. Now, Joshua Trump has been getting bullied simply because he shares the president's last name. He is one of the reported 4,788 Americans living with this surname. In December, Joshua reportedly stopped using his last name because he was bullied and also started doing homeschooling instead. Now, the sixth grader from Wilmington, Delaware is expected to attend the State of the Union to represent bullying and prevention of it, a key element of an initiative by the First Lady Melania Trump named Be Best. Meanwhile, Trump is giving his address. Many eyes will also be on the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who will be seated just behind the president. The California Democrat has been sparring with Trump for weeks over the government shutdown and has refused to give Trump $5.7 billion for the border wall. But on Tuesday, she'll look on as Trump delivers a speech with many themes that she disagrees with.
Of course, has been a delayed speech. We had a back and forth between him and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi that resulted in a week-long delay because of the government shutdown. So the president will finally be taking the stage there. But the circumstances of this State of the Union are very different than they were last year. This is the first time that the president will be addressing a divided chamber. You now have Democrats in charge. You'll have House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sitting over the president's shoulder in almost every shot of the speech. And that's the backdrop with which he'll be speaking.
And Trump's address was rescheduled after the partial government shutdown, which lasted 35 days and became the longest in the U.S. history. His remarks will come amid a widening partisan divide that could, in another week, lead to another government shutdown.
Just finished the longest government shutdown in this country's history. We are facing a February 15th deadline when we could possibly re-enter into government shutdown. You've got the president and Democrats who are locked in this very, very heated, increasingly heated and angry discussion over the president's demand for border wall money, which Democrats say they are not going to give him. You have the president threatening to declare a national emergency. And so you've got a very tense situation surrounding this speech.
And on the foreign policy front, there are several issues that the world will closely be watching for, including the developments in Venezuela and Afghanistan.
We're also expecting him to talk a little bit more about his plans when it comes to Afghanistan and removing troops, American troops, from that country. He'll also be talking about Venezuela. We expect him to talk about the Chinese-American negotiations over trade.